I know there are a lot of people wondering why go back to the command line. For a while, it seemed like the graphical interfaces were going to make the command line interface a thing of the past. Oddly enough, there has been a bit of a renaissance for the command line or terminal support. Here are a few reasons to add command line proficiency to your skill set. Command line centric tools, including everything from Git or Subversion to modern technologies like Ruby on Rails or Node.js, have a strong command line interface which provide more power than available graphical clients. Since the command line interface for most of the tools mentioned above are standard across their supported platforms, nearly all online help is expressed with the command line syntax. Because of all these things, the command line interface for these tools provide an excellent opportunity for learning what really is going on, since graphical clients have a tendency to hide those details. A shell is basically a user interface that allows interacting with the computer's resources, like files and folders. Shells can be graphical or text only. Although graphical interfaces like Windows or KDE are technically shells, most people assume a text-only shell. Text-only shells are commonly referred to as command line interfaces or command line interpreters. Bash is the default command line shell on Mac OS X and most distributions of Linux, which is why it is the most commonly used shell outside of the Windows world. The name Bash stands for Born Again Shell. Bash is an improvement over the original Bourne shell and integrates features from other command line shells as well. In addition to processing commands in an interactive terminal, Bash is also a rudimentary programming or scripting language, which can be helpful for lightweight programming tasks. While Bash isn't a fully featured programming language, it is far more expressive than Batch or the Windows command shell. On Windows, I prefer using Git Bash as my Bash shell environment. Since I'm a software developer, I like using Git for source control for my development projects, and Git Bash is included with Git for Windows. Git for Windows is a simple Windows program installer, which is very straightforward to step through. We'll be stepping through the process in an upcoming lesson. As its name suggests, it is a Bash shell environment in Windows, which I've mentioned before is more powerful than Batch or the default command shell. Git Bash isn't the only option for a Bash terminal. Cygwin is also available. However, I find Cygwin is more complicated overall. I recommend using Git Bash unless you know you need to use the features of Cygwin. Git Bash is free and open source, along with the rest of Git. That means there is no fee to use Git or Git Bash in your projects without commercial licenses involved. If you work for a large enterprise organization, you may want to check with your company's policy regarding open source software. In this section, we will install the tools needed for the rest of this course. Specifically, we will install Git for Windows, which includes the Git Bash terminal program. Then, we will install the Notepad++ text editor and add it to our system's path. I prefer using Notepad++ over Notepad since it is a much more powerful text editor than the standard Notepad, and it is still very fast and it is free. In this video, we're going to install Git for Windows. There are actually several ways to install Git on Windows. We're going to use a project called Git for Windows that provides us the most up-to-date version available for the Windows platform. This project is an improvement over the older recommendation of using the git-scm.com version of Git for Windows. As of the recording of this video, Git for Windows is still in preview. However, it is very stable, and for our purposes will be just fine. Either way, I recommend downloading and installing the latest version of Git for Windows. Let's start off by invoking our browser in this case Google Chrome, then go to git, that's git, -for -windows.github.io. Once that page loads, click on the download button on the home page. This brings us to a page listing all the available downloads for the Git for Windows installer. You can see here that we have both 32-bit and 64-bit versions of the installer executable. Since I'm running a 64-bit version of Windows, I'm going to choose the 64-bit version of Git for Windows. Choose the version of Git for Windows that best matches your operating system. Now I'm going to click on the link for the Git installer for my platform. That will begin the download process for the Git installer. Once the installer has finished downloading, go down and click on Open. That will run the installer directly from the current location. If you are prompted about a security warning, just click on Run. Windows may also prompt you to make sure that you want to install this program. Click on Yes. Once the Git Setup wizard starts, on the first page, click on Next. The second page has the license agreement. Again, click on Next to agree to the license agreement. The next page is select your destination. This is the location that Git will be installed on your system. For me, this location is perfectly fine, so now I will click on Next. On the Select Components page, I would like the Git Bash icon on the Quick Launch or taskbar, as well as on the desktop. To get both of those icons, I will check Additional Icons, which also checks in the Quick Launch as well as on the desktop. Then click on Next. This is the folder on the Start menu that Git will be installed. Since this is fine, I will continue by clicking on Next. This page dictates what parts of Git and Git Bash are installed. Although we will only be using Git Bash as part of this course, I recommend selecting the middle option. This will install Git Bash as well as integration with the Windows command prompt. In doing so, no real major changes are being made to my system, so it is both flexible and fairly safe. After you've made your choice, click on the Next button to continue. This screen is regarding how to treat line endings. On Windows, text files normally end with a different style line ending than corresponding text files on Linux or the Mac operating system. Which option you choose will greatly depend on whether or not you're going to be doing any cross-platform development. I prefer using the middle option, which is to check out as is, that is, don't change anything, but then commit Unix style. That means when I use Git to commit, the file endings for my text files will automatically be converted to a Unix style line ending. Since I bounce around between Windows, Linux, and the Mac operating system, the middle option makes the most sense for me. If you do all your development on Windows, and that goes for any team members sharing the same Git repositories, then the last option, Commit As Is, will be the option you'll want to select. Again, I'm sticking with the middle option, and if I want to later, this can be changed. Once we've made our selection, click on Next. Regarding the terminal emulator to use, I'm going to stick with the top option, which is a minimal terminal emulator that runs the Bash shell environment. Once you've made your selection, click on Next. This page, Enable File System Caching, is experimental, and I recommend leaving it unchecked for now. Click on Next, and now we are installing Git for Windows. Once the installation process has completed, on the final page, we can uncheck the View the README. Then click on the Finish button. Now, let's close Google Chrome. While we're here, let's verify that Git for Windows with the icon on our desktop. Looks like it's there. So now, let's double-click on Git Bash to fire up Git Bash for the first time. Now that we've done that, let's verify that Git is installed. Type Git, that's Git, space, version. Once you've done that, press the Enter key. Git should respond with the version of Git that's installed. To close Git Bash, we can click on the Close button that's part of the window, or we can type the command Exit. In this video, we're going to download and install Notepad++ for Windows. Open up your browser, I'm using Google Chrome, and go to notepad-plus-plus.org. Once the Notepad++ website loads, on the left-hand side, go to the Download option. Once the download page loads, click on the big green download button. This will download the Windows installer that will walk us through the rest of the process. Once the installer has finished downloading, within Chrome, we can click on Open, which will run the installer in place. When Windows prompts you about whether or not you want to really install this program, click on Yes. That will launch the installer for Notepad++. The first screen is to choose your language. I'm going to keep it on English and hit OK. On the first screen of Setup, I'm just going to advance on with Next. On the license agreement page, you can scroll through and make sure you agree with the license. Once you've read through this, click on I agree. On the Choose Install Location page, I'm going to leave it at the default location and click Next. On the first Choose Components page, I'm going to keep all the defaults and advance with the Next button. On the second Choose Components page, I do want the installer to create a shortcut on my desktop, so I will check that option. Now, let's click the Install button to install Notepad++. On the final page, after the installation process, uncheck Run Notepad++. We're going to run Notepad++ from our desktop in a moment. Now, click on the Finish button. Great. Now let's close our browser and verify that we have our Notepad++ icon on our desktop, which we do. Double-click that icon to verify that Notepad++ can launch. Now that we've confirmed that we have successfully installed Notepad++, let's close the program. Welcome. In this video, we're going to configure Notepad++ to run from within our command environment. I'm going to be demonstrating this with Git Bash, but this will work equally as well with the Windows command prompt or PowerShell. To demonstrate what I mean, I'm going to fire up Git Bash and try executing Notepad++ from the command line. So type Notepad++, then press Enter. In this case, Git Bash tells us command not found. Well, we can fix that. Let's exit out of our command environment. I'm going to type exit, and that closes Git Bash. The first step is to simply find where Notepad++ is installed. To do that, I'm going to go to File Explorer. File Explorer may actually be named something else on your version of Windows. In some case, it's named Windows Explorer. Once File Explorer has loaded, expand out this PC, then go to the C drive, which is under local disk. Notepad++ is a 32-bit piece of software, which running in a 64-bit version of Windows will be under Program Files, parenthesis x86. Expand that out, and we should find Notepad++ here. So click on that folder and look for the Notepad++ application. Great, we have found the location where Notepad++ is installed. Now go up to the address bar and click on it. This will give us the file path location where Notepad++ is installed. Copy this location. I'm going to use Ctrl+C, or you can right-click and select Copy. Great. With File Explorer still open, I'm going to scroll back up to this PC and right-click on this PC. From the pop-up menu, go to Properties. Once the System Control Panel window opens, click on Advanced System Settings. The System Properties will open onto the Advanced tab. Go to the bottom of the Advanced tab and click on Environment Variables. We need to modify the path environment variable under System Variables. So under System Variables, scroll down until you find the path variable. Select it and click on Edit. In the field for Variable Value, go to the end of this value. The quick way to do this is to hit the End key. We're going to add another path value at the end of this string. To separate paths, we're going to use a semicolon. After that, paste in the path location of Notepad++ that we copied in the steps before. Ctrl+V. Double check the value and then click on OK. Once we turn to the Environment Variables dialog, click OK. Back at the System Properties dialog, click OK. At this point, we can close the System window. And it's also safe to close File Explorer. Great. Now that we've done that, let's test it out. I'm going to return to Get Bash, and like before, type Notepad++ and then press Enter. Notepad++ should launch. Now that we're done with that, we can close Notepad++ and Get Bash. In this section, we execute each of the basic Bash terminal commands. Each lesson may build upon the commands learned in previous lessons, so keep that in mind when jumping around or skipping lessons. We cover several commands related to navigation or just getting around in general. Then we cover commands for managing files and folders, including how to create, move, and delete them. Also, we will cover how to run scripts or commands within Bash. Finally, we will put it all together by writing a simple Bash script, which we will then execute. At the end of this section, there is a lesson with a downloadable PDF document of all the commands used in this course. In this video, we're going to become familiar with some very basic navigation commands within the Get Bash environment. So I'm going to fire up Get Bash. First thing you'll notice is that we start off in a location noted by a tilde. In Bash, a tilde represents the user's home directory, and so we can see that by using our first command, which is pwd. If I type pwd, which means present working directory, and press enter, it shows us that we are in our user's home directory. What's also interesting here is that Get Bash notates the C drive as a /C followed by the rest of the path. We do not have a C:, as you would in the Windows command prompt. So that's a distinction that you need to be aware of. So let's take a look at the files and folders that we have available within our user's directory. Instead of dir, we have the ls command, which is used to list the files and folders that are in the current directory. So just type ls and press enter. This by default gives us a simple listing of the files and folders that are located in the current directory. We can modify the ls command by passing the -l parameter that will give us a slightly different listing. So type ls space -l and press enter. So now our listing command outputs the listing of files and folders with even more detail. In this video, we're going to walk through changing directories or folders within Get Bash. So I'm going to fire up Get Bash, and we're currently in the user's home directory. If I do an ls, you can see we have a listing of files and folders at this location. To go into a folder, we're going to use the cd command, which is change directory. So cd, and I'm going to use videos. In Get Bash, you can type the first few characters of the file or folder that you need to specify, and then press Tab to do auto-completion. In my case, I typed a capital V, and then press Tab. Once you've specified the videos folder, press Enter. So now if I do a pwd, you can see that we are in the videos folder of the user's home directory. Within Get Bash, it notates that with a ~/videos. We can use the .. notation to go back one level. So I'm going to type cd space .. That will back up one directory level. So you can see now that we're back to the root of our user's home directory. Since I'm on a Windows operating system, sometimes we have spaces that are part of the name of the file or folder. So I'm going to change directory into the My Documents folder, and you can see that the words My and Documents are separated by a space. You have to specify a / in order to escape the space character. Now if we press Enter, we're in the My Documents folder of our user's home directory. So at this point, I want to go back several levels. So I'm going to type cd space .. // This will back me up 3 levels. So I'm going to press enter. So now I'm at the root of the C folder. So if I do an ls, so these are the files and folders that are part of the C folder. Well, what if I just want to quickly get back to the user's home directory? So there are a couple ways to do that. We can specify cd space and then the tilde character. If we press enter, that returns us back to the user's home directory. Now I'm going to return to the root of the C drive and accomplish the same thing, except this time I'm not going to specify the tilde character. Just type cd without any parameters, then press enter. It has the same effect as specifying the tilde character, which brings us back to the user's home directory. Additionally, there is another way we can get around using the cd command. By starting our paths with a /, we can make an absolute reference to a path we wish to change directory into. So for example, I can go into the System32 directory within our Windows folder by specifying /c/Windows/System32. If I press enter, I'm now in the System32 folder of Windows. In this video, we're going to look to see if a particular program has been installed and available to our bash environment using the which command. So I'm going to fire up git bash, and we've already used several commands that we've assumed have been available to us. But there is a command to allow us to figure out if something is available or not, and that is the command which. So if we type which ls and then press enter, which will tell us the path location where the ls command is installed. Here's an example that will fail. So if we type which space man, which is a command that's commonly available on Linux operating systems, but not in git bash, we can see the output that which gives us. Which responds with an empty response. That response tells us that the man command is not anywhere to be found within our system path. In this video, we're going to look at the echo command, which on the surface may appear like a very simple command. If we type the command echo space and then the string hello world, then press enter, the echo command will simply echo out our string. However, we can be more elaborate. So I know that we have an environment variable named path. I can output the value of our path variable by typing echo space and then $path, noting that the $sign prefixes our variable name. So now press enter, and you can see this is our full system path as defined by our system environment variable. We can even combine the two concepts by having a string with the path variable inside of it. The path variable will be expanded out once it's executed. This is called variable interpolation. So echo space the current path is and then $path variable. Now press enter. So you can see the echo command returns the string that starts with the current path is, and then our path variable is expanded out. In this video, we're going to cover two commands, cat and less, both of which are used to review the contents of a file. So I'm currently in my terminal, and the first command I'll use is cat. And cat simply outputs the contents of a file directly into the terminal. And I've created a test.txt file. So I'm going to specify cat and then our file name, then press enter. So this file's contents just spews across the terminal. So the cat command works fine for very small or simple files, but I have to scroll up to see the rest of the contents of this file. There's another command that we can use to allow us to review the contents of the file in a little bit easier way to digest, and that is less. So I'm going to type less, space, and then the file name, test.txt, then press enter. So now we're in a less session with the file loaded. So within less, we can use our arrow keys to navigate up and down through the contents of this file. And then, when we are done reviewing the contents of this file, we can press Q to exit. In this video, we're going to create, rename, and delete files. I'm currently in the Git Bash environment, and I'm within my user's home directory. And I'm going to create a file named demo.txt. And I currently don't have a demo.txt listed, so I can use the touch command to create an empty file named demo.txt. So type touch, space, and then our file name we wish to create, then press enter. Once we've done that, we can list all the files that are available in this directory. And you can see that we have our demo.txt listed. Well, what if I don't like the name of demo.txt? I can use the mv command to quote-unquote move the file from one name to another. In this case, I'm going to specify mv space the current file name space the new file name. So demo.txt to demo-1.txt. Now press enter. If we list the files again, we can see we no longer have a demo.txt, but instead we have a demo-1.txt. So what if we want to remove our demo-1.txt file? We can do that by using the rm command, which will remove the file. If we specify rm space and then the file name we wish to remove, in our case demo-1.txt, then press enter, we will remove that file. So we no longer have our demo-1.txt file. There's an additional capability with the touch command that I want to demonstrate. So if I type ls-l, press enter, that will show all the files with additional information, of which the timestamp is one of those. For our test.txt file, you can see it was last changed at 0137. If I pass in an existing file name to the touch command, the touch command will simply update the timestamp without changing the contents of the file. So in this case, touch space test.txt, and press enter. So now if I do an ls-l, the test.txt file has a new timestamp, 0223. Alright, in this video, we're going to walk through creating and destroying directories or folders. So I'm going to open up Git Bash, and I'm currently in my user's home directory. And so now I want to create a projects folder for any specific projects that I may want to work on off of my user's home directory. So I'm going to type mkdir space and then the name of the folder I wish to create. Now press enter. If there wasn't any error message, then we can assume our folder was created. So now we are in our projects folder. Now let's remove that folder. So from within the user's home directory, type rmdir space projects, which is the name of the folder we wish to remove. And press enter. Like before, no news is good news. So if you didn't have an error message, then we remove the folder successfully. So if we cd to projects, we get a no such file or directory. We can also see, doing an ls, that there's no folder named projects listed. Sometimes you need to create multiple levels of directories all in one command. So instead of doing mkdir folder name and then switching into that folder and then making the next level and then so on, we can just pass a single argument to the mkdir command in order to create multiple levels at once. So in this case, I have a projects folder and then a client A folder followed by awesome web project folder. If I pass in the -p to the mkdir command, all three levels of those folders will be created for me. Like before, no news is good news. So let's check it out. So using the cd command, we can cd to projects/client A/awesome web project. So you can see where we're at. And now let's go down a few levels. Returning back to our user's home directory, let's delete our projects folder. In this case, the rmdir command failed. And the reason why is the projects folder is not empty. So since the projects folder contains folders within it, we cannot use the rmdir command. That command requires a clean directory before it can be removed. But there's another way. We can use the rm command and pass in a couple of arguments to force the issue. Typically, just rm will delete a file or folder that you specify. We can pass in the -r option for recursive and the -f option to force. However, we can combine both options into one, making it simply -rf, specifying the folder projects to remove. This will recursively remove the projects folder as well as anything contained within it. Now, rm-rf is extremely dangerous, so use it with caution, and always double check before you press enter. Like before, no news is good news. If we do an ls, we no longer have a projects folder listed. In this video, we're going to learn to clear the screen and exit our terminal program. So I'm going to go to Git Bash, and I'm currently in my user's home directory, so I'm going to issue an ls-l, then press enter. And doing so fills up my complete terminal screen. So to clean this up a bit, I simply type the command clear. Then press enter, and that clears the output from the screen. Also, once I'm done using the terminal, I can type the exit command to exit the terminal. In this video, we're going to take the output of a command and put it into a file. I currently have Git Bash open, and I'm currently in my user's home directory. In order to send the output of a command into a file, we use the greater sign or double greater sign, depending on what we need to happen. First, let's start with the double arrow sign. If I type echo space and then in double quotes a string, hello there, the double greater sign, space, demo.txt, which is the file that I want to contain the results of the echo command. The double greater sign will either create the demo.txt file or append to it. So if I press enter, if I do an ls, we have our demo.txt file, and using our cat command, we can see the contents of our demo.txt. Hello there. If I use the echo command again, sending another string to the demo.txt file using the double greater than sign, hello again should be appended to the end of the file. Now if we cat to see the contents of the file, we see hello there and then hello again. We can contrast that with using only a single greater than sign, which will override the file. In this case, I'm using the echo command, passing in hi in all caps. Then I'm using the single greater than sign to output to the demo.txt file, which already exists. So now if I press enter, and let's check the contents of demo.txt. This time, demo.txt only contains hi, which means that it replaced the contents entirely with the last echo command, since we used only a single greater than sign. We can send the output of most commands by using either the single greater than sign or the double greater than sign, depending on our needs. For example, ls space -al, then a single greater than sign to listing.txt. Now let's cat the listing.txt file. As expected, the contents of the listing.txt file contains the results of the ls command with the -a and l parameters passed in. In this video, we're going to create a simple shell script using our text editor, make that shell script executable, and then proceed by executing our script. I currently have git bash open, and I'm in my user's home directory. Well, we've been creating files so far by using other mechanisms besides using our text editor. So let's go ahead and create a simple script file. But before we create a script file, let's see where bash is located. I like to use the which command, which bash, and this will tell me where bash is installed. So bash is located at /bin/bash. Great, now let's use our text editor. And we've installed Notepad++, which we have made executable from within the command line. We pass in a single argument, which is the name of the file we wish to create. I'm using example.sh. .sh is a common extension for shell scripts. Now, press enter. If prompted to create the file, say yes. Now with the file open, I like to start off with our shell scripts with a line known as shebang, and that starts with hash, followed immediately by an exclamation point, then the path to the executable we wish to be using, which is the bash executable. Just double check. Bin bash. That looks correct. While we're at it, let's make sure we're using a Unix line ending. I'm going to go to EOL conversion. So I'm going to choose the Unix format. And shell scripts are simply shell commands, in this case bash, placed into a file for execution later. So I'm going to use the echo command, passing in hi, comma, everyone. That's all we need for now. So now let's save and then close. Once we have closed Notepad++, we will return back to the terminal. If I do an ls-al, we have our example.sh. Now in my case, the file is already executable, and I can see that by a listing of the read, write, execute flags for this file. However, if the file was not already executable, we can add that by using the chmod command. And this is the syntax that it would look like. chmod space plus followed by the type of flag I need to add, which would be X for execute, then space, then the file that I need to modify. But I don't need to do that this time, since it's already executable. To execute our shell command that's in our current directory, we're going to use the // notation. So // which means here, followed by the file name of our shell script, example.sh. Once we've done that, press enter. And you can see we have the output hi, everyone. In this video, we're going to customize our bash environment by creating or modifying our .bash rc file. The .bash rc file is a quasi-hidden file that is used to set up our bash environment. So the text editor I'm using is Notepad++, space, and then our file, .bash rc. If prompted to create the file, say yes. And let's make sure we're using the Unix line endings. Well, right now, all I want to set up are the aliases. All an alias is another name for a command. And we can use this mechanism to shorten commands. And the syntax is alias, space, and then the alias name we want to use. I'm going to use LL, then equals, and then in single quotes, the command to issue. So within the single quotes, I'm going to put ls space dash AL. So every time I type LL in the terminal, the ls-al command would be issued instead. Let's create one more alias. I'm going to shorten my Notepad++ command by simply calling it npp. So alias space npp equals, then surrounded by single quotes, Notepad++. Now that we've done that, let's save our file and close. Once we're back to the terminal, if we want to test out our commands before closing our bash terminal session, we need to load the file again by using the source command. Source space .bashrc and press enter. No news is good news, so let's give it a try. LL. And sure enough, we get a long listing, and sure enough, we get a long listing that's consistent with the ls-al command. Now let's try out the other one. npp. Press enter, and that loads Notepad++. Well, let's make sure that the bashrc file works by closing our terminal. Doing that closes our bash session. And let's get started again by re-invoking git bash. And like before, we should have access to our LL command and our npp command. That works correctly. And that works correctly. I hope this course enforced the need to learn the command line and add it to your list of skills. We covered how to install my preferred bash environment, git bash, and other supporting tools. We covered many of the basic commands in bash, and in doing so, I hope you became more familiar and comfortable with the command line and the bash shell environment. You can use this course as a reference and as a good starting point for any courses that require experience with the command line. If you have found this course beneficial to you, please leave an honest review so others will know how much this course has helped you. If you have other feedback, please instant message me directly. Also, please engage with this course by commenting in the discussions, leave questions, and attempt to answer questions left by others. Finally, there is a bonus lesson with exclusive student-only discounts for my other courses. Thank you so much for spending your precious time watching this course. I hope it has